Hey guys, Infinite Awareness, you are here with. Um, these clips are for making your life more auspicious to you, to give you more of the impetus into a better direction. So just general advice and just general advice that you can implement within your life and hopefully make a change that you wish to be the representation for others. Each one teach one. So sorry about the auditory effect and the visual effect. I haven't got a decent camera at the moment, but that shall be changing soon. But yeah, it's about the message really, innit? It is. I mean, you can hear it fine, and my voice is a frequency, a very deep one at that, a deep intonation. But hey, come on, you're still synthesizing it and assimilating it, and that's what it's all about really. We should stop being more enticed by the opulence of things. But yeah, I will get a decent camera at some point. But yeah, today's just an easy, I don't know, kind of laid back kind of clip, because this is just about general energy really, general forms of energy and entities. Now when you say the word entity, there's a lot of connotations attached to that, and a lot of attributions to what we personify through our imagination. An image, an imagination. Asian, the word Asian, in motion, creation. We create things ourselves that we attach things to. But by entities, I just mean other forms of energy like ourselves. That is all. It's very, very simple stuff, guys. That's all we are. We're energy fields, toroidal energy fields. Scientists, pseudoscientists won't propagate this information because what they do is they're analytical. They're analysing the illusion through its subatomical fractal parts, that not realising that it's constituent with something that's way beyond their perceptible domain, because the sensory apparatuses and the organs in which we operate with are very, very limited and finite. There's a very small bandwidth in which is conceivable. So yeah, and even with the sensory organs that we're using, the finite capacity of that is being even more reduced. That's become even more reductive because they're making us spotlight attention, acuitive sensory kind of reflexes, and that's like very animalistic and primal. There's no need for visual acuity. Why would you want to? We emphasize on one little thing, and there's to that thing that we emphasize on, there is a rigid attribution to that thing and what that is and how we perceive that thing, not seeing the whole spectrum, and that it's all constituent, a part of itself, being itself. Can't stress that enough. But yeah, so that's what that is. And we're all just forms of energy, right? And without a you, there wouldn't be someone else to perceive them as what you call them a you, and what they refer themselves to as me. You see, we're all the same me, because it's one experience, and it's just broke off from itself, and it's all from the same origin. The O origin. The O is the whole, centripetal, that magnetism, the infinite. The number 8 represents the infinite state, interweaving in and of itself. We are curvature kind of energy, which the end implies the beginning, and vice versa. That's what we are on this plane called Earth, which is an acronym for heart actually. And this is a very special plane that we're experiencing, and we're just a form of energy condensed into what this is, magnetism, polarized magnetism. And we need to grasp that it's not a concept, it's unfathomable. You can't see it, you feel it. When you revert back to the heart, you feel the energy. But there is entities at work. We're an entity. We are an entity. Again, the word entity. We are an entity. It just means energy form. An energy form. An energy formation. There's different variations of energy, varying light forms, just like the planetary system. Each planet is not a globe. Again, that's an inculcated dogmatic ideology. It's a framework to feel that we are inadequate, to inferiorize us in our neural network of our brain, to inferiorize that and reduce it into thinking that we're just a globe, a spherical thing in space somewhere, just in space. It's to make you feel very insignificant within yourself, like you're nothing. Well, you are really, but at the same time you are everything as well. And even for us to perceive things on such a scale infers in itself, is a strong implication that there's something more to us. That there's something more to us. But the mind can't conceive itself beyond its limit. It can't conceive different realms that's not fathomable to the degree of what it can perceive. But this is where the heart comes into it. I cannot stress this enough, and I know I have. The heart, earth, is an anagram for heart. It means heart. And the heart is centered. The mind is not. But again, I discussed this in the last video with the hemispheres. But yeah, I'm just talking about general energy in this video. I don't have any points, bullet points or anything. I'm just speaking free-flowing about energy and what you can do to even make your home more of a conduit, to cleanse the atmosphere of your home. So that can be a deterrent for bad entities. These entities are... See, we're in different columns and different layers. There's different variations of layers to even us, but it's all condensed in us to be without. And we are all what is, but there is lower planes and higher. They call them the chakras, as they pronounce. And these just mean your organs. It's an organ. They are organs. An organ emits a certain frequency, a certain vibration, and the different variations of these. And most of them are not aligned, they're disaligned. Well, no, that's wrong. You can't disalign them. They're just, some of them are just in a state of dormancy. You heard the word, we're in amnesia, collectively. And once the chakras are activated, the medulla chakra, which is the root, there's ones even below that. They call them the inferior planes. And this is the micro, again, the micro fractalized parts, expanding and projecting into the whole of what you are. And there's the inferior planes, but there's different entities and beings attached to the inferior planes, and they are the beings that want to exploit your inner intrinsic resources, because you're an illuminescent being and self-generative. You generate, right? Not emulate or contract, which is their game. That's their game, right? I can't speak. I'm speaking on behalf of them, because they don't reveal what they're doing. I might sound insane to some of you guys, but I'm going all in. I'm going right in. This is a deep channel. This is for the spiritual beings. So yeah, it can get real deep, and it might sound a bit incoherent, but this is a free-flowing video. I'm speaking about general energies and everything that correlates to these energies and what you are. And in the future, I'm going to do I'm going to depict these things on a board to give it more clarity, because again, we more easily assimilate symbolism, because that has a powerful imprint neurally on us, and that invokes things that sometimes vocally for the vibration of our vocals, it's sometimes limited to what we can take in. And symbols seem to have more of a profound effect. There's more profundity to it sometimes, depending who you are. But yeah, so there is inferior planes, and there's beings that are on them inferior planes that want to exploit our energy. It's like an extraction source, and if you're susceptible to it, right, and you're and you're subject to your ego, and you're in preservation of that perpetually, then you are very susceptible to being under the influence of these kind of beings, because they will use you. They will use your vessel. They will. And the ego directly correlates to what they do and how they use that. But we are much more divine and potent. But how would we know our potency of our divinity without the contrast of something opposing that? You see how they are a part of us to teach us this. We're not thinking dualistic terms. This can very much diversify into states of dualism. They are a part of us to teach us. They are inseparable from us and what we are too. They are parts of us. We won't be able to perceive them energetically or even on a visual. When some beings can show themselves, they can traverse their realm, which is a plane of frequency, to materialize here. But they are a part of you. You wouldn't be able to perceive them if they wasn't a part of you. It implies that in itself. But some of them are dark, and they do contract energy. And if your auric field, and you're not protected etherically, and you're not fortified from the higher transcendental abode, and I know a lot of scriptures call these beings demigods and deceivers, fallen angels, but we are of God, whatever God is, not personification again. I think I said this in the beginning of the clip. We have a tendency to personify things and create archetypical kind of constructs of what these things are. An archetype is a typified version of what you're attributing to it as an arc in the domain formation that we are in, the toroidal field, the dome. An archetype, if it's of the dome in which your mind is encapsulated in, is concocted from the ego. Not the heart is in that state of knowing. Now, I'm not talking about God in that sense and the demigods, the fallen angels. It's written, it's a biblical term, it's in the Bhagavad Gita, the Quran. All these scriptures state these things. Ancient books depicted in the temples, the pyramids, and that's a whole another topic as well. But I'll have to remember that, and I will expound more of that into more detail in them videos in the future. But yeah, general energy. So God is the highest form of energy, what we perceive as God, and say what is God. You have to prostrate your ego to that higher transcendental realm and submit to that, because that is what you're animate of. You are subordinate of that, and an effect of that transcendental realm. And once you do that, you are fortified against the lower inferior beings. But if you're not willing to substitute your artificial version of what you are, and if you're in preservation of that, you are going to be under dominion of certain other beings, and certain beings that are perceivable for our sensory organs as another human form, the beings that are using them to get you under their subjugation and under their dominion. And that's how the government operates, that's how the corporations work, the banking systems. Corporation You're a corpse. You're already dead to them. In the courts, the prosecution, cutus is flesh. Prosecute, cutus. This is this is deep stuff, but it all correlates. It's all relative to the dominion that we're under and why we suffer, because this whole thing gets us on such a dense vibratory state and chasing things and externalizing your power for materialism, which is things that are inanimate and have no value. It gets you chasing the opulence of that, which is all relative to their system and how they work. It's an enticement trap. You end up in a deep chasm. There's no end to it. And that's how they catch you off. So yeah, the entities, that's what these are. And I'll just give a brief discussion about it. And they will use you. They will use you. When you have an urge to have sexual intercourse, a very insatiable urge just to get a buzz from the intercourse, not to deeply integrate, for that to be like a seesaw symbiotic kind of sway, where you're both not extracting, but you're both concurrently giving and receiving. That's love. That's love making. If you have a rapacious kind of urge and intent to have sex, then that implies in itself that you're being used by something else. It's using you to extract energy from that person for a form of sustenance for itself and the ego, which is connected to them. The artificially instilled ego. This was in my last clip about the ego more in depth. So that's also relates to that. So even the things like sexual intercourse, it's a feeding frenzy for these beings and these energies. If you're going to have sex, again, my advice would be to cleanse the room. Salt lamps, they emit negative ionic wavelengths which have an opposing positive effect on your energy, on your auric field, your magnetism, because it's from the sea. Semen, your organic version of you, in the woman, the womb of man. And then when you have sex, you're reiterating that process, but you've got to do it in the form of love, so it's connected to God. And you have salt lamps, incense sticks, act as a repellent for bad energy. Clear the room, not just to have sex, but just generally clear the room, cleanse the room. Again, with general energy. And these entities, just cleanse the room, have a good environment, change the room around, so it's not blocking energies from coming through or leaving. So all these things can enhance your experience, this human experience, this projection that you're animate of from somewhere else. It can be pleasant for you. You don't have to be subject to turmoil and animosity, because any stigmatization towards yourself or anyone else is just a direct feeling from within you. No one's put it in you, and it is not anyone else. And it's because you've got energy blocks, your chakras are blocked. They're not working as a conduit. They're not a conduit of energy. Nothing's flowing through. Because you have to be in a trinary kind of state. Trinary. Everything's a trinary based system. One polar to the other produces something else. When it's in a dualistic state, one or the other, it bounces. And again, like in the last video, that's the ego. It creates frictional resistance, which is very destructive, and it doesn't get anywhere. It's very stagnant, and it's invariant. The state in you will be invariant. It won't be changed, intransmutatable. So remember what you are. No, yeah, what you are and the energy that you are. You're just energy. And these energies need unblocking. So cleanse your room. That's the first step. Keep the room tidy and cleanse it. And the diet is the big one too. For general energetic feelings, the diet, meat is a very dense energy. It's dead. It's a dead energy. And the beings that are being killed are sentient. They are like us. They experience empathy. Plants don't experience empathy. They've got no ability to. On a level of interpreting any kind of trauma. There's been scientific studies that obviously oppose that. But if you eat meat, it's been proven that we're not biologically compatible for digesting meat, things such as meat. There's little crevices in the intestinal tract that it gets blocked in, and it doesn't flow through. It's not digestible. And these crevices of meat get blocked, and it becomes very stagnant in your intestinal tract. And these blockages will like ferment and become into bacteria and develop into forms of more sophisticated bacteria and just attack the body, keep the body in a low vibratory state. And that's also an attraction for parasites. That'll produce parasites as well. And these parasites and forms of bacteria, fungus and all this fungi, they're living life forms. They're organisms that then live off the organism of your body, and they're not natural. And this is what meat does. Again, it's a dense vibration. Your body's not meant for it. That's just a few factors on that, and I will do another clip on that also. The more clips I do, the more's coming out, the more's being secreted from me, and then it's leading into another video. But I think for now this will be enough. So remember, choose the heart and love over the ego, and learn how to decipher the two. Once you go in the heart, you can decipher for the faculty of the mind what your reality should be. Thank you guys. Like, subscribe, like this video, share it. Do what you want with it. You're not under my dominion. Thank you guys.